the classic need to find scapegoats, to blame others, began to grow. And so, very quickly, it was the Jews. The Jews who control finance. Jews and money is an old classic canard. We don't have time to go into it, but it's part of our subculture. How many of you here Jew him down? You know how many times a month the ADL gets complaints throughout the country of incidents in middle schools and high schools and on basketball courts of somebody throwing a penny? Do you know why they throw a penny? You want to identify a Jew? Throw a penny. Only a Jew will bend down to pick it up. You want to know how pervasive it is? A governor of a state of Wisconsin, not Alaska. You're not listening. Not Alaska. You're listening. Ran for the presidency of the United States and appeared in front of a rabbinic group and said, you know, I finally know what it means to be Jewish. And everybody looked. And he said, all my life I was in public service. I never made money. Then I took a couple years off. I went into business and I made money, and now I know what it feels to be Jewish. This was the governor of the state of Wisconsin. This is a man who sat in the cabinet as a secretary of health, education, and welfare. And so the buzz was in the room, and the rabbi came up to him and said whatever he said to him, and he said, oh, I meant it as a compliment. Doesn't your religion teach you how to make money? So if you wonder what's out there, that 22% of the American people believe the Jews control finance, and 31% in Europe, which we polled now, 1 out of 3 Europeans believe the Jews disproportionately are in business and control the finance of this world, then who else are you going to blame? For unemployment? For the markets? For everything? And you know what? You know how many times poor Mr. Volcker, we talked to Mr. Volcker, he wants to know why everybody thinks he's Jewish. That's the Secretary of Treasury. They think he's Jewish too. That's classic anti-Semitism. I just came back from Poland. In Poland, in every mall, in every store, on the streets, you can buy little tchotchkes. You can buy souvenirs. You know what kind of souvenirs are being sold all over Poland? A sculpture, or a ceramic, or a painting, or a water squash, you name it, of a Jew. A Jew with a black hat, with a hooked nose, with the classical Streicher German Nazi type image of the Jew, and he's holding a money bag, or he's holding a gold coin, or he's counting money. You can get them in all variations. And I bought them. At every place I bought them, since I speak Polish, I said, "Soto, what is this?" And they said, "Żyd." Żyd is the word that Milt didn't want to use before. It's the Polish word for kite. And I said, "Dlaczego? What is this all about?" And they say, "Well, it's a good luck charm." I said, "Excuse me?" When somebody gets a new job, when somebody moves into a new house, when somebody opens up a business, you buy this as a gift, as a good luck charm. I said, "Why?" "Well, because Jews are good in money." It's part of a culture. So I go to the Minister of Education, and I say to him, "I know Poland is a democracy, you can't ban things. But why don't we, the ADL and the Ministry of Education, develop a program to educate that this is an ugly anti-Semitic stereotype?" And he says to me, and sorry he said it, but he said to me, "Mr. Foxman, no Jews died because of this." I counted to 10. And I said to him, "How many thousands of Jews were handed over to the Nazis by their Polish neighbors because they believed that the Jews had money?" Ask Ilan Hilmi's family in Paris. Ilan Hilmi was kidnapped off the streets in Paris by a gang who believed that all Jews have money, and in order to get rich, all you have to do is kidnap a Jew, ransom him and you get rich. Well, they didn't have money, so they tortured him to death. But that's part of the culture. So, whoa, and where are the voices? Where is the outrage? I don't hear it. And then, in the 5 minutes, Gaza. Look, in my business, we learn. And we know every time there's violence in the Middle East, there is anti-Semitism in the world. It usually starts in the Middle East, in the Arab world. It moves over into Europe. There are manifestations. Okay. Nothing. Nothing like it was this time with Gaza. And if you want to understand where I come from, I'll speak for myself, because I come with a baggage of understanding what anti-Semitism can do. This was an outburst of anti-Semitism that none of us thought is out there. And here's where we're going to get controversial. I would posit for you that this war was as close to a just war as you can possibly have. You can argue, should Israel have gone to Lebanon for 2 soldiers, or 2 lives? Yes, in Israel and in Jewish tradition, 1 life is very sacred and very important. But should I have gone to, into Lebanon for 2 individuals? You can debate and argue, was it worth it? But in this case, hey, Israel gave up Gaza. Said to the Palestinians, here, territory, you want it? Here it is. The Jewish state removed 10,000 settlers by force. Jews whose synagogues have been destroyed for 2,000 years, destroyed their own synagogues, dismantled the synagogues, removed the graves, dug up those who were buried in the Gaza, and took the bones into Israel. And 5 or 10 good-meaning, well-meaning Jewish philanthropists raised $15 million to hand over the greenhouses so that 3,000 Palestinians who worked in the greenhouses, who brought sustenance to 3,000 families, would not for a day lose their livelihood. And then when it happened, there was an election. And the Hamas won. Why did it win? Because it forced in strength the Israelis, the Jews, to evacuate. My foot, okay. So doing, quote unquote, what the world said is the right thing was a sign of weakness. And then what happened several months later? They kicked out the Fatah. They kicked out the others who were also elected, but not in leadership. And then declared themselves a Hamas entity. And what is a Hamas entity? Its constitution has nothing to do with territory. It has to do with anti-Semitism. Do yourself a favor before you get into this conflict. You can download the Hamas constitution. If you can't find it, you can download it from the ADL. It is a carbon copy of the protocols. It calls for killing every Jewish man, woman, and child. That's what it's all about. It's not about territory. It's not about sovereignty. And so when they say no recognition, no peace, etc., but okay, they got elected, they had a putsch. Israel negotiated through Egypt a ceasefire. And the ceasefire held for 6 months, more or less. And at the end of 6 months, Hamas decided they're strong enough. They've got enough weapons. They've got enough training. Iran sent them enough. And they're ready. And the bombardments started every single day. And the fact that thousands of Israeli men, women, and children didn't die was not thanks to them, but thanks to him or to her.